We've all felt it. That nagging sense that there's this gap between the person we are right now and the person we could be. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into that gap and, more importantly, figure out how to finally close it.
I mean, it's such a human question, isn't it? That feeling deep down that you've got another gear, like this untapped reserve just waiting to be unlocked. And it's not always about some huge, life-changing ambition. Sometimes it's just that quiet internal whisper that says, more.
And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the whole thing. See, all the research points to the exact same idea. The problem, for most of us, isn't a lack of talent. Not at all. The real roadblocks? They're the invisible patterns, the habits we just follow on autopilot, day in and day out, without ever questioning them.
All right, so if we're going to close that gap, we first have to get really honest about what's creating it in the first place. So let's start with a diagnosis. Let's look at the hidden barriers that are keeping us from our potential. Okay, so the first barrier, and this is fascinating, it's not really psychological, it's biological. Our brains are literally hardwired to save energy. And how do they do that? By defaulting to whatever is familiar, predictable, and safe. But here's the catch. Your potential doesn't live in that comfort zone. So you've got this fundamental conflict right from the start. Your brain is screaming safety, while your growth is demanding the exact opposite.
So what that means is, every single day, we're standing at this fork in the road, and most of the time, we don't even realize it. On one side, you have the path of comfort. Yeah, it's familiar, it's safe, but it's also where you stagnate. And on the other side, you've got the path of growth. And look, it's going to be uncertain, it's going to be uncomfortable, for sure, but it is the only place where real progress actually happens.
And it's not just our comfort-seeking brain. Oh no, there are other more subtle saboteurs at play. For instance, there's that fear of uncertainty. Waiting for the perfect guarantee before you actually do anything. Then, there's confusing being busy with actual progress, just spinning your wheels without any real direction. Or how about this one? Avoiding responsibility, believing that life just sort of happens to you. And finally, a big one, a simple lack of self-awareness. We just never stop to ask ourselves, hey, what's draining my energy and what's actually building me up?
So how do these barriers even get built? Well, it's all about the stories we tell ourselves over and over again. Things like, I'm not ready yet, or it's probably too late for me, or I'm just not that kind of person. See, those aren't just passing thoughts. After a while, our brain starts to treat them as absolute truth, and those beliefs, they quietly become the invisible walls of our comfort zone.
Okay, that's a lot, I know. We've diagnosed the problem, we can see the patterns, we can feel the mental locks holding us in place. So, if all of that is the lock, then what in the world is the key? What's the actual prescription for breaking free?
Well, the good news is the key isn't some secret, complicated formula. It's actually a set of really demanding but pretty straightforward principles. So let's break down what our research calls the 8 demands of success, the things you absolutely have to do to unlock your potential.
Yep, the answer is 8. 8 specific demands. And let me be clear, these are not shortcuts. They're not magic bullets. Think of them more like the core pillars that create the foundation for real, lasting growth. All right, here are the first 6. Hard work, patience, sacrifice, consistency, discipline, self-confidence. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've heard all these words before, right? But we're not just going to talk about them as nice ideas. We're going to treat them as active principles. So let's take a closer look at a few of these and see what they actually mean in practice.
Let's start with sacrifice. I absolutely love this way of thinking about it. It's not about losing something. It's about making a strategic trade. You're trading a little bit of short-term comfort for a huge long-term goal. And think about it. If you're not willing to make that trade, then you're unconsciously choosing to make the goal itself the sacrifice.
Okay, next up, consistency. This is the engine of all progress. Seriously, excellence isn't about one single heroic effort. It's the boring, cumulative result of just showing up. Especially on the days you really, really don't feel like it. Those small, consistent actions, that's what compounds over time and turns into mastery. And that leads us right into discipline. This distinction is so important. Think of motivation as the spark. It's exciting, it's powerful, but it's also fleeting and totally unreliable. Discipline, on the other hand, is the engine. It's the system you build that runs on commitment, not on emotion. And it's the thing that keeps you going long, long after that initial spark has fizzled out. All right, let's talk about confidence, because this next demand requires us to completely redefine it. See, most people think confidence is the belief that, oh, they will like me. But real, powerful confidence, it's the deep-seated knowledge that I'll be fine if they don't. That is unshakable confidence. It's all about internal resilience, not chasing external validation.
Okay, demand number 7 is having a positive attitude. And let's be really clear here. This does not mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. Not at all. It's about the fundamental belief that you can influence your outcomes. It's the direct antidote to that passive, life just happens to me mindset we were talking about earlier.
And that brings us to the final demand. Number 8, focus. You know, in the world we live in, with endless distractions coming at us from every direction, the ability to direct your attention, to direct your energy toward one single, meaningful goal, that might just be the ultimate superpower.
And really, it all boils down to this: where you choose to put that focus. Just remember that old saying, energy flows where attention goes. It's so true. When you stay concentrated on your goal, you start to see obstacles differently. They're not permanent walls anymore. They're just temporary problems that you need to solve along the way.
All right, so we've diagnosed the barriers and we've laid out the prescription. But here's the thing, knowing all this stuff is only half the battle, right? So let's wrap this up by talking about how to turn all this knowledge into actual daily action.
Look, if you only remember one single thing from our time here, please make it this. Your potential is not some hidden treasure that you go out and discover. It's a structure that you have to build, choice by choice, action by action, day by day.
And you know, what's so powerful is that ultimately this whole process is more about subtraction than addition. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about shedding the limiting beliefs, questioning those old patterns, and removing the barriers that you've accidentally built around yourself. The person you're capable of becoming, they're already in there. They're just waiting for you to get out of your own way.
So, I'm going to leave you with a question. Forget about the huge 5-year plan for just a second. Based on everything we've talked about, what is one small, comfortable pattern that you can consciously choose to break today, right now? Because that, right there, that is where building your potential really begins.